Okay. Good morning to everybody. Good morning. Honorable Reginald Austri, Minister for Agriculture, Food and Fisheries, and Deputy Prime Minister. Yes. Okay. Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister of Dominica. Honorable Dr. John Colin McIntyre, Minister for Public Works, Ports and Water Resource Management. Other government ministers and members of cabinet. Dr. Anthony Hayden, developer, CEO, Montreal Management Consultants Establishment Limited. Permanent secretaries, the financial secretary, other senior government officials, representatives of Montreal Management Consultants Establishment Limited, members of the various media houses represented, all other senior government officials, and Dominicans listening here and abroad via all media houses, including social media. Good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you this morning to the signing ceremony between the Government of Dominica and MMCE for the various housing projects that are going to be established and have already commenced in part in various locations in Dominica specifically, and more details will be given on an overview of the project. Roseau, the Roseau City Square, Portsmouth, at Georgetown, Picard, Portsmouth, at Cotton Hill in Portsmouth, and on the East Coast in various communities on the East Coast, details of which will be given. We are excited to be at this point where government officially signs the projects, the agreement for the projects. And without any further delay, it is my pleasure to invite Mr. Chris Timmins, who is the project manager for Montreal Management Consultants Establishment Limited, who will give you a brief technical detail on the projects, followed by the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Housing and Lands, Mr. Lucien Blackmore, who will give an overview of the project from the government side. Mr. Chris Timmins.
Go ahead.
Good morning, ministers, permanent secretaries, managers. Montreal, as you've heard, we are finally in a position to sign contracts on some projects which we've actually started underway. The plan at the moment is, and the plan in actuality is, we will be building 66 units in La Plaine, 66 residences in Saint-Sever, 66 in Grand Fond, 66 in Castle Bruce, 66 in Delices. That's on the East Coast. In Georgetown, Picard, we're presently under construction with 68, and we've also commenced construction of 68 in Cotton Hill. Roseau City Square, which is due to start in the final quarter of this year, is a total units, including commercial, of 125 units. Now, we are proud of our product. We've been in the island now for 2 years. We started up in Bellevue on residential construction in May 2017. We obviously had a bit of a hiatus with the passing of Hurricane Maria. We recommenced residential construction again in May this year, and the first units are now in the final stages, just awaiting connection by the utilities. During the passing of Hurricane Maria, we learned some valuable lessons on detailing and how to cope with hurricanes. We believe we're delivering a demonstrable world-class product up in Bellevue, and it's there for everybody to see. There were various following our tours around the island and our experiences elsewhere in the Caribbean. We learned various details that we felt we could improve upon to further improve the quality of the product we're offering. And we've incorporated those details on all our new East Coast developments. We've incorporated those details up in Georgetown, Cotton Hill, and wherever practically possible, we've also incorporated those now in Bellevue Chopin. The units are constructed of reinforced concrete. They have reinforced concrete roofs. We have incorporated hurricane-proof windows. They are impact resistant, they are water resistant, they are wind resistant, and therefore by definition they're also burglar proof. We have altered and changed details to further improve the resistance to ingress of water from external sources on balconies, on verandas. So we feel that we now are in a position to offer to the country the most resilient product that is presently available with modern technology. The slated delivery dates at the moment, and we have complete confidence in this, is that commencing from June next year in Castle Bruce through to December next year on the East Coast, everything will be completed and handed over. In Georgetown and Picard, we anticipate and are confident in July 2019. Cotton Hill, we are confident in September 2019. For Roseau City Square, it will be 12 months from commencement. So, given the present status, we anticipate a completion there no later than December 2019. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Also, I wish to recognize the head table, and behind the head table, the Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister of Dominica, Honorable Reginald Austrie, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Forestry, Fisheries, and Agriculture, other members of Cabinet, Mr. Anthony Hayden, the CEO of Montreal Management Consultant Establishment, and all of the dignitaries there, including the Permanent Secretary. P.S. Joseph said, we're excited, but I can say from the Ministry of Housing point of view, we're elated. And we're elated because we have identified, we have a strong partnership in Montreal Management Consultancy from the event and the atrocities that we had to withstand coming from Tropical Storm Erica. Dr. Hayden and the team was one of the first respondent coming on board with us. And from then, we saw the birth, what was coined by Prime Minister at the time, taking the opportunity to build back Dominica better. And predicated on this, we ensured that the form of structural design that we would have would be able to stand the worst adverse conditions we could find, whether it's through climatic condition or whether it's through adverse hazardous condition. And so we have ensured that the designs can restore at least up to 7 to 8 structural disturbance that could come through seismic disturbance on the Richter scale of 7 to 8. We also had to ensure Category 5 hurricanes could be withstanded, and very importantly as well, because also you all could recall, coming from Erica, we are all overwhelmed and preoccupied with flooding and landslides and mudslides and things of that nature. So we had to ensure that all the sites that we identified were free from those hazards, more importantly, free from the hazards of flooding. So of course, the structures that we have at Bellevue Chopin, which is the Petite Savane resettlement site, can withstand all those hazards to include flooding condition. And it's on that note I can say we have been able to see the proof, because coming from the ferocious Hurricane Maria on the 17th and 18th of September, we saw that the buildings withstood the test of time. There were absolutely no damage, structural damage to the building, even the site itself. There were no erosions or any mudslide or landslides. And in fact, the only adverse setback we had on the site were man-made activities that we won't go into at this point. So we can boldly say with strong level of confidence and assurity that the collaboration that we have and partnership with MMCE, surely that project can be deemed the flagship project of our resettlement and more so building back better. And of course, coming from Hurricane Maria, we know that we have stepped up the level of response. We're looking from our building back better to ensure that we become the first climate resilient country of the world. And of course, it's building on that foundation that we already established with Montreal Management Consultancy establishment that we are going forward. And today, it's again my privilege and honor to share with you some of the achievement and the proposed developments that we have in mind. As you know, the Honorable Prime Minister have been on record for saying we're going to be building 1,000 residential units. And I'm saying residential units to make a vast distinction between the number of buildings as opposed to the number of families accommodation. To start up with, in Belleville-Chopin, we have 340 residential units. Somewhere around the end of September, we should be getting a full 99, I've been advised. And towards the end of May, end of June, we should have all the 340 buildings ready for occupation. The manner in which it is happening, as you know, we have a number of segments on the site itself. We have A, B, and C zones. So we'll be outlaying or bringing out the project or the components, the finished components to the public in full, complete fashion. So it means that when we hand over a site, if we're talking about site A, it will be fully completed, meaning all the infrastructure. And that is the beauty of this project. It's an all-inclusive project. We have the building units, and we also have the infrastructure. The infrastructure to include the roads, drainage, the sewage disposal, water, and of course, electricity and telephone and internet. Now, the beauty of the design, again, as you'll see, we made a deliberate decision during coming from hurricane or tropical storm Erica to ensure we have underground facilities. And you would realize that on the site at Belleville-Chopin, which is the litmus test that we're going to use for all the other sites we're doing, all of our utilities, inclusive of that of the usual overhead, telephone, and electricity, will be underground facilities. And you would realize on the site, we have no overhead lines, and of course, they were fairly secured during the event of Hurricane Maria. So again, we have seen the true testimony of the design parameters that we've had, and we are fairly confident going forward that this is one of the hallmark design response that we want to a housing program. And so, as was said to you, we have 340 that will be coming on stream. In Roseau, we also have what we call the City Square, and right outside of where we are, the Pong settlement, we have included as part of the flagship redevelopment, we will have 120 units. My colleague said 125, but to my arithmetic is 120. We have 10 single or one-bedroom unit. We have 10 or 15 commercial units, 25 commercial units. And we have 55 two-bedroom units and 35 three-bedroom units. So this would be what we expect to get in the city center. And to ensure at the end of the day, of course, coming out from Hurricane Maria, we have to be very sensitive to the demographic and the family size, the family structure, and the response we're going to have to give. So we expect the Roseau project will be a massive transformation of the housing and architectural landscape in the city. And again, not to displace what is there, but to complement what is there. And we all can understand the demise that we sometimes face with Pong. To have it transformed into the set of residential landscape will be the set of response we're looking for. Of course, I have to echo the sentiment and the decision of the Prime Minister when he said, building back better and talking about resilience, you have to start from your major commercial centers. And of course, as we know, Roseau is the capital, and we have to ensure that we start with the kind of decision of where we're looking at the desirable form of housing accommodation that the city can really magnify the design and aspiration of the country. Added to that, the city, of course, as we know, is not Dominica. It's part of Dominica. It's the major commercial and residential unit of the country. So we wanted to ensure that we have this transformation right across the board. In the East Coast, we have around 330 residential units that are going to be there. We've already started works in Casabros, where we'll be having 66 units. Of course, we have already started in Saint-Sauveur, where we have another 66 units. And in Délices, likewise. In La Plaine, likewise, we have started. And in Grand Fond, we have two sites where we call Grand Fond A and Grand Fond B. Grand Fond A is just opposite or adjacent to the primary school in Grand Fond. And Grand Fond B is opposite the playing field in Grand Fond. So all the sites are already in very active, advanced state of development. We are hoping that Cotton Hill and the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister is right to my right. We should be starting up very soon. We have already broken ground, so Honorable Douglas is quite happy. Georgetown is already in the state of advancement, where we'll be having 68 units, and of course, in Cotton Hill will be another 68. There will be a number of other sites to come in as we go along, but I could say at this point, we are totally satisfied and committed to ensure that we respond very appropriately and adequately to the serious housing demise that we have coming out of Hurricane Maria. And this is one of the constraints that we had to understand with the developer, that where we have started our initial design during Tropical Storm Erica, coming out from Maria was again a bigger catastrophe and a bigger problem that we had to face. And we wanted to ensure that we did so quite appropriately and adequately by ensuring that the design that we did fit the purpose of the needs that we had on the ground. So on that note this morning, I am happy to say that we have come a very long way, and we expect in the next couple of months to be able to see that very tangible manifestation and transformation on the ground, where the housing accommodation that we have will be able to fit the purpose of what we need. It's also important that I also raise here that coming out of those designs, we are looking at all-inclusive accommodation. So for some of the buildings along the East Coast, where we have two, of course, as I said to you, we have 66. I also need to clarify to you, we have them in blocks, and every block would have 33 units. So what we intend doing, or what is the design, and also what is the decision, that in the sites of Casabros, Saint-Sauveur, La Plaine, Délices, and Grand Fond, one of those buildings would be dedicated, the ground floor would be dedicated as regional shelters in that area. So at the same time, while we're looking at the residential needs, we're also looking at the response from the hurricane. So that is the kind of integrated, informed decision and planning we're doing forward. So it's a development looking for the full-time accommodation. At the same time, we're looking at the transitional as well as the dislocation we'll have after hurricanes. So we take that into consideration. The other thinking going into that is, of course, when there is no hurricane, there are also other community or public service that we could put these buildings to. So this is the kind of integrated development we're looking at going forward, coming out from both Hurricane Maria and, of course, from Tropical Storm Erica. And on this note, I wish to tell you thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary Blackmore, and earlier speaking, Mr. Chris Timmins. At this point in time, we want to hand over to Honorable Dr. John Colin McIntyre, who will also deliver some remarks, and followed by the Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable McIntyre.
Thank you, Mrs. Joseph, PS, Ministry of Planning. Let me first of all acknowledge the presence of our Prime Minister, Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, who is here with us today. He's not at the front table, but he's empowered us to deliver today, so we're all here going to deliver. My Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Reginald Austrie, the ministers of government present here today, especially and in particular the members of the CBI Ministerial Committee, of course, and also members of the Technical Committee, CBI Technical Committee, and the CAPSEC, Cabinet Secretary, our Financial Secretary, Permanent Secretaries here in large numbers today, the staff of MMCE present with us here today, and of course, the developer here, Mr. Dr. Anthony Hayden, and of course, Chris Timmins, who is the technical manager here with us, government officials, members of the media, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First of all, I must say it's a pleasure for me to be here and be part of this ceremony here today. This ceremony, the signing ceremony between the government of Dominica and MMC for the various housing projects under the Dominica Government Housing Development Program is very, very significant given the experience of Maria and the level of damage done. I'm sure we'll all appreciate that the MMCE development, and of course, as you heard, there's been a 2-year presence on island, slightly longer relationship, has been proven and tested. Those of us who have had the opportunity to visit the Bellevue Chopin Development Program to house the people, residents of Piti Savan, just following the hurricane, Tropical Storm Erica event, I'm sure you can all attest that this is a tested and proven project from the point of view that Hurricane Maria, which was a significant hurricane in our history, passed through that area, but the buildings were left untroubled, undamaged whatsoever. So I think this is a great partnership. This is a partnership towards the echoes of the government of Dominica in terms of building resilient type homes for our people, and this is true testimony to it. So Dr. Hayden and your team, I want to thank you for really adhering to that level of resilience as is needed for Dominica. While I speak here today, I must make mention of the various projects under the CBIP, which is the Citizenship by Investment Program. And we know we have projects in the Kipinski at Range. This is a major investment taking place here. Okay, though not related to the CBI program, but the Moroccan Hotel, funded hotel is another one. The Marriott being funded under the CBI project. And of course, recently, we saw images of the Jungle Bay. These are all projects, minus the Moroccan funded hotel, under the CBIP project. Now, this is very, very significant to the development of Dominica and the people of Dominica. And I must say here, I'd like more and more of us to understand the importance of that. No government, and I hail from a very long period, as you will realize, has ever given the sort of importance and seriousness to housing development for its people, as well as for hotel development. So I want you to understand, those of us listening out there, and those of us here, and those of us on island, to understand the seriousness that this government has placed towards investment from the CBI program, and more now so in terms of hotel development and in terms of housing. I can remember after Hurricane David, we were in tents for a long, long time, a very, very long time. But today we can boast of it that after Tropical Storm Erica, we're just about to hand over to the people numerous high-quality, resilient, modern-type buildings to our people. And we're not going to be short-paying our people by building this basic type of wooden buildings, and when we relocate our people, we are not going to take our people from an area of problem and put them into anything that's going to be worse off than where they were. So I want to say to us, let's pay attention to these things. Though this is not a political event at all this morning, but it would be remiss of me not to mention some of the things that we'll be hearing out there. We'll be hearing out there that this is the government's duty to do that. This is not really the government's duty to do that. Because when you build a home, for example, you pay insurance, your home is insured, and we expect that if a hurricane hits your house or fire damages your house, that you'll be insured to fix your home. But in Dominica, we know how it is. We know exactly how it is. And your government, headed by our Prime Minister, Dr. Skerrit, will not let our people be at the perils of nature. We happen to be in a path that will be visited sometimes, but I want to keep it real here, such that we'll understand that this government is doing all what it can. There's no pie-in-the-sky type projects, as you'll hear the opposition members mention about. These are pie-in-the-sky type projects. This is reality, and what we see here is testimony to the fact that we are very, very real. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to be too long here today, but I want to make sure I mention a few more projects that this government, and just imagine the modern Dominica we're looking at. We're looking at a modern Dominica. Yes, Maria has struck us a blow. It has erased some of our gains, and we're making a lot of gains. But I want us to understand that with the new vision for government, of this government, as articulated by the Prime Minister, you must start thinking of Dominica having its international airport, which we will build. Start looking at the new Roseau, which is the Roseau Enhancement Project, all the modern streets and the designs and whatnot, and looking at the horizontal aspect of it. the Roseau City Square, for example, the Riverside Apartments, and all what it takes to make Roseau beautiful, We are blessed in Roseau in that we have a river, a clean river flowing through it, which is the envy of a lot of countries. So the cruise ships, for example, the cruise port, the cargo port, and the various programs we have under plan for the next coming year. So I'd like you to start looking at the new Dominica, the vision for the new Dominica in terms of new hotels, the new housing structure which are resilient with the hurricane shelters built in them which can multi-purpose use. Start looking at a new Roseau. Start looking at your international airport, your cruise ship port, your cargo port, and these are just a few things on the horizon for the future of this country. So I must say I'm very happy to be here today. I feel privileged to be part of this development program and to be part of this government, really advancing Dominica into the future. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me recognize in our midst the presence of the Honorable Prime Minister, Roosevelt Skerrit, Minister for Planning, Dr. McIntyre, other ministers and members of Cabinet, the CEO of Management Consultant Establishment Limited, PS of Housing, the FS, other permanent secretaries, other senior government officials, members of the media, staff of MMCE. Pleasant good morning to you. I may appear to be a little nervous this morning because not very often I have the Prime Minister sitting just right behind me when I'm doing my thing. So I have to be very, very, very careful and cautious as to how I approach this one. But let me thank the Ministry of Housing and Planning for inviting me to this very important function here this morning. And to say to you that this activity, to me, is extremely historical. Because, as you heard from the previous speakers, this project is well on its way. And as I understand, within the next 2 or 3 weeks, the first 40 units will be ready for handing over to the residents of Pilit Savan. And we know here today, signing this agreement. Not very often you hear about a project so far in advance, and months and years after you're signing the agreement. And that, to me, demonstrates the astute negotiating skills of our Prime Minister added to his vision, and I believe that we have to give him the round of applause for this. Yeah, you see, because we can all have visions, we can all dream, but at the end of the day, converting those dreams to reality, that is where it matters. And this signing here is the conversion of a dream, the conversion of a vision by the PM to reality, which probably at the time he probably had no monies for doing it, but he knew that he was going to source the money, he could find the money. And today, if you go to Bellevue, you will see a real living testimony of a dream and a vision made reality by the Prime Minister and by the government of Dominica. It also demonstrates the type of partnerships, but if you're serious, that you can forge with partners who are prepared in spite of all the economic challenges faced by the entire world. And these buildings we see here really are not 3 cents or 25 cents buildings. These are the real thing. And for your partner and a developer to risk that level of investment in a country that lost 90% of its GDP in 2015, and to agree to put his millions into that country, it shows a sign of confidence that even if we as Dominicans don't have, but people looking from the outside, they buy into our message, and that is a show of confidence in the government, in the stewardship of this country, that the gentleman could use his money to advance the project to to take us to that stage where we are right now, and only today, more than a year later, signing the agreement for that particular project. I believe that this project is not only going to be a showcase for Dominica, as it already is, but I think it will be a showcase for the entire Caribbean region. I've been, as Minister of Housing, for 20 years. I've been to a number of countries looking at their housing systems, in that we could develop our own housing system. And I can say to you that nowhere, not even the Bahamas, which is as close to America as I could get, would see that sort of public housing. This is what it is. This is not private sector housing. This is public housing. And I challenge you that if you can find anywhere in the region where there's that level of housing development, the Prime Minister will come up with another vision, and we might be able to up that. But I don't think that can be done. It's not available. You cannot see it. So don't waste your money and go anywhere trying to look for housing development like this one, because there's no such one in the Caribbean region. And so we believe here in Dominica that in spite of all our challenges, we can make good things happen. In 2015, well, let's start, because you see, this project really is not anything new as far as housing is concerned. Because since 2006, you've been hearing about our housing revolution, and this really is an extension of the housing revolution. And before 2006, housing was never a major integral part of the distribution of portfolios. It was hidden somewhere in the Ministry of Communication, Works and Housing. It was always the tail of some bigger and brighter ministry. But recognizing the challenges we had in housing when we got into government in 2000, we created, after the 2005 election, a special Ministry of Housing. And many people didn't understand what that meant at the time. But today, this signing ceremony we're having is a manifestation of the vision, again, to create a housing ministry, to give it its own feet, its own hands, and its own legs, that we can execute and bring to the people of Dominica decent housing. But while I don't want to go back into all what we've done for housing, I believe sometimes our memories in Dominica can be short. And we have a tendency to quickly forget from whence we came because of the rapid progress. And it's not our fault, because we see so many things happening, it's difficult to understand where we're coming from. And so we take it for granted. And I'm not going to try to say that in part for the short memory thing, because Dr. Anthony wouldn't understand the part was saying for short vision, you know. But it started really with an idea where we started with, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. You've heard this so many times, where we had the land regularization process, where a number of our families were occupying lands for 30, 40 years. And we made lands available to them, lands which were valued at probably $5, $6, at 50 cents a square foot, like in this little place in Jubic. In Jubic, it was 50 cents a square foot. So we keep saying a dollar. Yes, there were dollars, but there was the 50 cents ones in Jubic before we got to the dollar one. And then there was the home repair program. And then there was the special housing program for the Carib territory. And then we had this special mortgage interest program for public officers at the Aid Bank 4%, at the Government Housing Loan Board for 4%, and at the Aid Bank for 5%. We also had a reduction in service lots provided by the state. In Union Estate Point Michelle, those lots were at $14 a square foot when we got in here. That was the value placed on those lots. And we brought it down to $7.25, $7.50. So the people of Point Michelle and Dominicans could afford, because these lands were there for years, 10, 15, 20 years. Those estates were purchased, but nobody could buy it. It was too expensive. And it was just sitting there. And many of them were paid for by this government. Hillsborough Gardens and so on were paid for by the government. But we also made it affordable that the people of Dominica could afford to buy those lands. And then we had the housing developments, Hillsborough Gardens and this place there, Bellevue Chopin, where we actually had housing schemes, 11, 12 houses, Hillsborough Gardens and other developments. And so this MMCE program is a continuation of the housing development. And as we move further, we upgraded and we heightened. So I'm not sure where else the Prime Minister is going to go, what else he can do as far as housing is concerned. I think we've reached the pinnacle of a housing revolution where we can only go flat now. But well, you never know the PM, the PM have some bright ideas, and he might want to go up still, but I'm not sure where he can go. and they're not going to try to figure it out. But I think we're flattening out with this MCCE project. So Erica, they came in, and even the site, the Bellevue Super site, for those of us who, well, many of us didn't know the Bellevue Super site. We knew Bellevue Super when we passed on the road. But this piece at the back, I certainly didn't know that, and because there was mountains and valleys. And initially, when the promoters, Dr. Hayden, looked at the various sites in the country, and they decided that, yes, we could do a house, everybody was like, this guy's crazy. How are you going to build houses there? 300 units in the precipice there? And he says, no, I can do it. And if you go there today, you probably will not recognize this site. If you didn't know what they would look like before, today you'd probably not recognize that particular site. And so we, in the government, with our limited resources, we don't have a large amount of money, but we continue to put the monies of the state at the disposal of the people of Dominica. Many people don't like it, because they think that we're giving away too much to the society, and this money should be put in a bank, and the people take loans, and we live off the interest and so on. But I don't think that's the role of the government. The role of the government is to make the lives of its citizens better and better as much as you can, and to what extent that you can. And so what we're really doing is giving back to Dominicans, giving back to the society, giving back to the country, what we believe will be a platform for continued growth and continued development. Because I've always said that unless your human resource, unless your human base, unless your people are happy and comfortable, you're going to have a sad society. And that's why a couple of years ago, Dominica was voted one of the happiest countries in the world. And many of us didn't understand what that meant. But the happiest country in the world means that we are happy in spirit. We are happy. We don't have plenty of money. We're not very rich people, but we're satisfied that we're in a place now where we can feel proud and we're happy to be in that place. And we can see signs that we can get to a better place. But it calls upon us making and taking the right decisions at the appropriate time. We cannot afford to squander this opportunity. We cannot afford to derail that train, because that train is on a roll, and that roll has no ending. But the conductors of that train have to be astute, they have to be firm, and they have to understand exactly what is it that we're dealing with. So it started off with the Bellevue project, but Hurricane Maria really had us to think hard at our housing strategy. Out of the 30,000 houses that we had, we lost 23 plus for 27,000. 23 of those were damaged in all different areas: roof gone, windows gone, doors gone, flooring gone, and so on. And about 4,500 were totally and completely destroyed. And like the minister said, that the government, really, who had insurance, but the government had no obligation per se to go back and to rebuild people's homes. You have been left on your own. But we know that even people with insurance had challenges and difficulties in rebuilding and repairing and renovating their homes, that the government itself had to intervene to assist some of these people with their home repairs. So if the people with insurance could not do it, then how was the man from Clifton and Capuchin and Scotland and so forth, how was he going to do it? And so he needed the helping hands of the government. And so the government invested very, very heavily in the home renovation post-Maria. But in areas like in the east of the country that was hit so hard, it couldn't just be about going and rebuild those houses. It had to build, under our theme, the resilience of those homes. And the Bellevue project, it stood up to Maria. We were able to return there in short time. It stood up to Maria. And had our utilities already been underground, then there would have probably been zero damage to, except the human catastrophe that followed, but there would have been zero damage to the units. And so we felt that we had to replicate these units all across the island, particularly in the areas that were heavily hit by Maria. So in Casa Bruce, in La Plaine, in Delis, in Roseau itself, where we always had this pond development, in Portsmouth and in Cotton Hill, which were on the cards even before Maria, we are seeing tremendous progress taking place. And so today, signing ceremony is supposed to be a reminder, apart from everything I've said before, of where we were as a people, post-Erica and post-Maria, where we are today with many of those housing developments already on the roll. And I'm saying that to say this is not just a vision or a dream, this is conversion to reality. where if you go on any one of the sites this morning, you will see that work is progressing at various stages and in various forms. And so we really, really need to thank MMC because their presence on the island has really impacted our economy. It has, in Bellevue and in all the other areas, it has put money into circulation. It has given us a view after what alternative technologies exist for a similar product. And they have proven to be, based even on their presence here today, but outside of that, tremendous corporate citizens, tremendous corporate partners, cooperating with the government to ensure that we get a product that with their reputation itself is on the line, because I'm sure that people come here by day and by night to see what these projects are about. And don't be surprised if very shortly you may hear one or two, like everything else we do, somebody else have to follow us. You may hear one or two governments or one or two people looking to see exactly how we executing that project, because that project really will be the envy of the Caribbean region. We're looking forward, Dr. Hayden, to the completion of the first phase, and like Mr. Blackmore said, the A, B, and C's of Bellevue Shopping. We're looking forward next year to the completion of all the buildings. I was happy to hear Dr. McIntyre say by June, most of them, or Mr. Blackmore will say by June, most of them will be completed. And that is really the start of the hurricane season, which if you can call a start and an end to hurricane season these days. But that will be the start of June, and many more Dominicans will be resting much, much more comfortable. Because, you know, today, once the rain, wind, anything that passes, we're starting to panic. I mean, the thing way out in the ocean, but we already start to prepare. There's nothing wrong with that. We have to prepare for it. But sometimes I think, because of the experiences of Maria, Dominicans not taking any chances. So come June of next year, with the completion of all those major projects, and I'm sure that this is not the end, because this is about 1,000. Then we have the sustainable housing from Barbados, another 1,000. Then we have the World Bank project, which provides for housing to, plus our own local resources. I'm talking about 27,000 homes that have to be done over a period of time. It can be done in 1 year, and we've done very well in 1 year, because I understood that we have done about 12,000 homes in terms of repairs and so on. That is remarkable. I don't think anywhere that was hit by a hurricane, or Hurricane Maria or Emma, has reached that level of achievement in such a short space of time. But that process will continue, and I'm sure that we're not going to be seeing the end of the partnership and the cooperation with MMC and the government. So I really, really, really want to thank, on behalf of the people of Dominica, on behalf of the government of Dominica, I really, really want to thank the MMC group and the CEO, Mr. Hayden, for placing his trust and his confidence in the people of Dominica and to deliver to us a world-class project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Austri, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Agriculture, Food and Fisheries. We are at the point of the ceremony where we get into the signing portion. Just to reiterate, the signing agreement is for various projects in Portsmouth, Cotton Hill, and Georgetown. In the east, La Plaine, Delis, Castle-Bruce, Saint-Sauveur, and Grandfont, and Roseau City Square, the Pound area. So these are the agreements that we will be signing today. And it is my distinct privilege to invite the signatories on the agreement, the CEO, Dr. Hayden, Anthony Hayden of MMCE Limited, and the Financial Secretary, Mrs. Rosamond Edwards. Areas of the agreement all pages are highlighted. Sure. Look for her. Sure.
saying so.
The witness?
It's signed, just to exchange it. Yeah, just to exchange. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
That's it?
Thank you.